Welcome to DABCC Radio,
where smart people listen.
Virtualization and Cloud Talk.
Featuring cutting-edge solutions from the hottest companies around the globe.
Broadcasting from the DABCC offices in sunny Sarasota, Florida.
Surrounded by computers, books, and Legos. Your host, Douglas Brown.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of DABCC Radio. I'm really excited today to share this interview with you. I have Denis Gundarev with me, and Denis is an old friend of mine from way back in my youth. For many years now. He's a great guy and super technical, super smart, super fun, just a great guy. And he's had a very interesting career. I met him. He was a consultant, and we met each other in the early days of the CTP program. And from there, he went from a consulting company out in California. Some friends of mine, Ansys 360. And went to Citrix, and then went to Microsoft, or went to VMware, and now he's over at Microsoft, and he owns the RDP protocol, and he'll talk all about this today, and I'm just so excited to have him on. We did a meetup with the IGEL community, something I do once a month. We have monthly meetups in the IGEL community where we bring tech guys on and do deep tech show and tells and how-tos and deep dives and things of that nature, and it was one of our best meetups we've ever had, and we had 170 people, something like that. Really happy. So all thanks to Denis. So, what do I say? I'm really looking forward to this. We're going to learn a bit about RDP, learn a little bit about what it's like to be a program manager. I mean, do you know what that is? I somewhat do, because I work with these people a lot, right? I have interactions with them, but even that, it's still sort of this mystery sort of job. And I'll shut up now because I'm so excited and looking forward to chatting with Denis. So with no further ado, here's my interview with Denis from Microsoft. That sounds cool to say. Okay, Denis, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I'm so looking forward to this. We had you on an IGEL community meetup, and that was a lot of fun, but that was more of a webinar, right? You get to, should talk about what you want to talk about. Now I get to ask you questions, and we've been friends for a long time, so this ought to be fun, right?
That's right. I'm really glad to be on this podcast. Thank you, Doug.
Hey, boy, thank you. So for those who don't know who you are you and what do you do?
Hi, I'm Denis Gundarev. I'm a program manager at Microsoft. I work for Microsoft for about 2 years, and I'm a program manager on the remote desktop services and Windows Virtual Desktop group. It's the same group that do both products or both services, and I'm working on the remote desktop protocol.
Very cool. So when we were doing our meetup, you said, this is something you've been wanting to do for quite some time. You get to play with, RDP, right? And sort of define what that means. Is it as cool of a job as you thought it would be?
So I would say it's a dream job. The funny stuff that I was doing different kind of remote desktop services, Citrix, VMware, most of my career. I think it wasn't really professional when I started with beta version of Windows NT 5.0, the beta version of Windows 2000. But that was I definitely noticed the remote or terminal services in that version. So I was doing this in many different roles for a long time. I was a consultant. I was the end customer deploying. I literally was invited to my second or third good job just because I did Citrix, and this was 16 years ago. And I was doing this for a long time, and now owning the RDP protocol, it's definitely a dream job.
That's cool. That's cool. So you're a program manager. Many people don't really know what that means, and to be honest with you, I don't 100% knows what it means. It's some ways it's different from company to company and what have you. Can you describe what do you do at Microsoft? What is a program manager? The types of tasks you do on a typical day?
Yeah, so many people are asking like, what is program manager, and even here at Microsoft, I have some developers joking like, why do we need a program manager? They can do the work on their own. We have great developers, by the way, and the answer is pretty simple. That so there's in some companies there are product managers that take some project or some product and handle it, and then they switch to another product or another feature. And it's different at Microsoft. The program manager takes like the full coverage of specific area. Like in my case, I'm working with remote desktop protocol, and this includes both graphics and networking. And it also includes like working with the partners to onboard them to some of the remote desktop services components, or onboarding some partners to the partner program. So it sounds like a lot of job that loosely connected, but it's given me the opportunity to use what I know, to use my skills, to use my knowledge, to adjust it and use it to improve the product and everything around this product. And in this case, it's remote desktop protocol. And I do work with developers. I do work with other program managers in different groups within Microsoft, and with the partners to basically add new features and or improve the existing functionality of remote desktop protocol.
Boy, I have so many questions. I don't know which one I want to ask you next, to be honest with you. So you work with other groups, WVD, RDP. Which direction or do you have a favorite that you're interested in, or are you spending more time in one than the other? Does it matter? Is it all the same? Does that somewhat make any sense?
So yeah, it may sound a little bit confusing when I say that I work for remote desktop services and Windows Virtual Desktop Group, but internally our group is called RD 2.0. Remote Desktop 2.0. It's like a next version of Remote Desktop Group. And WVD is one of the products that were released by this group. So we are a Remote Desktop Services group that are adding that build a service on top of the Remote Desktop Services. And the reason why I say it's remote desktop services /WVD is just to make sure that people who learned about WVD today, like we have a lot of customers that were never using anything for remote access besides some remote access solutions on their home PCs. And now they are onboarding their companies, small and big, to WVD. And for them, it's a brand new product that was released last year and have no history. For those, when they say that I'm working for WVD, they like this. They know that I'm coming from the group that bring them this new cool remote desktop solution. But for many others, like yourself, remote desktop services for a long time. You remember it as a terminal services. And for those, I'm a RDS guy. And the same with the group. This group is working on the remote desktop services, and WVD is just one of the features, one of the services that are based on the technology that we develop, that our great engineers are making. And there is a lot of other things that are using RDP as example, even within Windows, like Quick Assist, some components of the HoloLens, some components of the Xbox are using RDP. A lot of things are using RDP, and this is the product of our group, and that's what we do.
Interesting. What does the Xbox do with RDP?
So you probably heard about Xbox game streaming. Xbox game streaming is the way to access your games that running on Xbox somewhere on Azure Cloud or somewhere on your Xbox console at home with remote protocol. And the remote protocol, it's not exactly RDP, but it uses a lot of components that were taken from RDP, and it's the same developers working on this protocol, and that's one of the examples where the RDP and the components of RDP are used. Another example is your phone app. With release of Surface Duo, where Microsoft released the Android device, we added the functionality to have remote access to the applications running on the Android device. And the protocol that is used to access those devices, it is based on RDP as well. It's not exactly RDP, and there are reasons for that. Like in case of game streaming, if you're streaming games, your content is very different from the regular Office user. Same with Android applications. They are different than Windows. But the networking components, the URCP protocol that we use to optimize the networking components for the UDP and for the wireless networks. Those components are developed within the RDS group, and they're used in Xbox game streaming and in my phone app. A lot of other examples, like I said previously, we use RDP in Quick Assist, and every time that you're trying to help someone of your peers with their issues on their computer, and you're using Quick Assist, you're using RDP, and that's just a few of the examples.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So, being a program manager, you get a lot of requests, from people inside, outside the company. How do people provide feedback for you? Can that be done from the outside?
Yes, of course. There's a lot of ways to provide the feedback. If you are a Microsoft customer and you have some account manager or technical account manager that working with you, you can always talk to this person and ask them to file the feature request, and they can reach out to our group, and we will figure out how to process this feature request. If you just have a smart idea and you're working for nobody and you don't have like direct contract with Microsoft, you can always go to user voice. We have a feedback site that is called remotedesktop.uservoice.com, where you can provide the feedback and request features for any of the remote desktop components. And that's actually a great website because you can find that somebody already asked for this feature, and you can upload it, or you can refer your friends to upload the feature, and we review this on a weekly basis, and we add in the features to our backlog. And there is another way to provide the feedback, it's called Feedback Hub. It's a application within the Windows that you can use to provide feedback, and this includes obviously it includes the bugs. If you see that something doesn't work properly with any of the Windows components, you can open Feedback Hub and file the bug request, and you can use it to request features as well. And all of those feedbacks, they are filed in our engineering system in our Visual Studio Online, and we always see them. We can react, we can prioritize those requests, and we have a lot of great ideas coming from those sources.
That's great. That's great. So I get the question, and this is an old question, right? RDP versus everyone else. And RDP's been around for quite some time. And back in the day, it was sort of, ICA, Citrix's protocol and versus RDP, right? And the argument was always, as I like to call it, ICA was, worlds ahead. Where do you think all that stands nowadays? Is it an apples to apples comparison? If I talk to Benny Trish, he'll always explain to me how great RDP is and how, completely on par it is with every protocol, if not in some ways better. So what's your stance on that old argument of, the protocol war?
So, as you can imagine, I can just simply say that RDP is better than everyone else.
You're a bit biased, but you could back it up. So.
But in fact, I, as part of my job, I work with both Citrix, VMware, Nutanix, with Rdp, with a lot of other folks, and I'm actually proactively reaching out to other vendors on the market that are smaller and they have like niche solutions, and I'm asking like what we can do for you to make you more successful with your product, and I routinely review what is happening on the market with other protocols, and I do the feature comparisons, and I perform some performance analysis on a regular basis, and at the same time I know how it works, and so I always say that most of the protocols, all like top 5 protocols or top 4 maybe protocols on the market today that are mostly used in the solutions, in the remote solutions. No, it doesn't matter is it cloud solutions or remote solutions or on-prem solutions. They are, in many cases, they are really the same from the performance, but they are always different in the functionality that is outside of the protocol, that is around the protocol. Protocol is just a small feature, and if you want to build a solution that you manage yourself, if you're running something on-prem, you definitely need to have the image management, and that's not a protocol. You definitely need to have like profile management, and it's not a protocol. And some solutions provide profile management, some solutions don't, but that's outside of the protocol. So protocols are all great. The difference comes from from how those protocols are set by default. Remember those times when many people were buying the graphics adapters based on the comparison that you run with, 3D Mark or something like that. Everybody was like, oh, let's check how this graphics adapter perform with 3D Mark. And there was a big scandal when one of the manufacturers got that they actually tweaked their graphics, their drivers to perform better with specific tests. And that was shown like something really bad because they cheated, but it's not. It's not bad. The In case of the protocols, the fine-tuning of the protocol is a science. And sometimes this science doesn't have enough input, and the product managers at Citrix or at VMware, they trying, or at Microsoft, they trying to find a solution that fits all. And it really depends on the target audience, and it really depends on the history of the protocol. One of the things that we are proud at RDP, that RDP Group, that our goal was always to deliver the highest quality of the image, the highest quality of the desktop, and we internally in all of the parameters that we are able to set, the default settings are set to deliver 100% quality of the images, 100% quality of the text, and the rest of the data. And we downgrade only if we have limited network or limited resources on the computer. But in other protocols that have a different history and different use cases historically, the image quality might be set to lower. And that's what those customers of those protocols are using, and they are happy with it. As example, with Citrix, with Rdp, the default graphics settings are set to 80% or to medium quality, and image quality is downgraded by default. It's not bad. It's just a default setting that you can modify to either improve the quality of the image or reduce it. You can do the same with RDP. You can reduce the quality of the image by default. When you will do the comparison, you will find that this actually affects the bandwidth utilization. And the bandwidth utilization is actually one of those metrics that are taken into account when you compare the protocols. So if you compare RDP with all others, you will see that RDP consumes more bandwidth. But do you really care about bandwidth today? Like, is it your primary metric, or user experience is primary metric? If user experience is primary metric, then you go ahead and adjust the settings on all other protocols and see how they perform on the network, and you will see that all of the protocols would be almost the same. So I don't really want to say that we are better than everyone else. We have great features that nobody have. We are definitely missing some features that we are working on. And we have some features that we actually don't want to bring because it's something that was really useful 10 years ago, but nobody cares about it today.
Makes total sense. You brought up graphics and GPUs. There's sort of perception that some protocols are better with GPUs than others. Is that the case?
So the better with protocol with GPU or worse with GPU, it really depends on a few things. Do the protocol itself use the GPU or not? And that's the protocol only. Basically, if you have an application, let's say AutoCAD or Photoshop or whatever application that works with the GPU, it would work no matter which protocol you use. And it's not a protocol feature to add the GPU to the protocol or add the GPU to the application. It's Windows and its drivers and its application itself. So no matter which protocol you use can use VNC, and or you can use some remote application that some student created on his internship. It doesn't matter. Your application, if it has drivers and it has GPU, it would work with full capacity. Now, this application will render frames, and it will render the graphics that needs to be presented on the monitor, and most of the applications designed to work on the physical desktop. So they will render those frames, assuming that it would be, I don't know, 30 FPS or 60 FPS. And now it's a protocol that takes these frames and compress them and send them back to the client. So how efficient the protocol in this case depends on the work that developers did with this protocol. And it doesn't matter do the protocol use GPU or not in this case. GPU may improve things, especially if protocol is able to use video encoding that most of the GPUs have today. But again, depending on the scenario, you may be forced to not use the GPU for encoding, because if you use video encoding on the GPU for the protocol itself, you always lose the quality. No matter how high your quality settings, your image would be compressed and it will lose some quality, and it might be not acceptable in some scenarios. So then the real efficiency would come only if you use the protocol with lossless compression settings that are within the protocol, and most probably they are not using the GPUs.
So do you personally not recommend a GPU? Or I guess it depends, then, is what you're saying, right?
No, it's actually, no, it's completely opposite. I do recommend GPU for everything. Okay. And I basically, here's the basic explanation for that. Like, try to go to some like Computer Mart or eBay or Best Buy, and try to buy a computer without a GPU. Try to buy a laptop without a GPU, or home PC without a GPU. It's impossible. Even if you will buy the cheapest one, it will have embedded graphics because you need to have some chip and some schematics on the motherboard to connect the display. Something needs to scan the memory and convert those bits and bytes to the pixels on the screen. That's work of GPU. And the operating system itself, Windows and applications, they always use GPU for rendering, no matter what, no matter do you have GPU or not. If you don't have a GPU, we use software rendering, what we call WARP. It's Windows Advanced Rasteriization Platform. It's a great solution to render the desktop, render the application, that it's not a emulated GPU. It's just software rendering engine. But even it's very performant. If you have a real GPU, it will be always fast and less resource intensive to render the desktop, render the applications, and present it. Now, what happens with VDI? What happens with remote desktop services and all other solutions like that? Historically, like, let's take 20 years ago. 20 years ago, all of the VDI was non-existent, and RDS and some Citrix deployments were built on a big hardware servers without any virtualization. And there was some embedded graphics on those servers. Remember, like, servers never had real graphics adapters because the servers were designed as the headless machines. Now, when those servers, like 15 years ago, when those servers started being used for virtualization and different hypervisors like Zen or VMware were added, all of those hypervisors had emulated graphics adapter. So they were using the virtualization capability of the CPU. They were using some capabilities to share the access to the memory, but for the graphics, they were not even trying to use the physical graphics adapter on the server. They were always having virtualized graphics adapter, and it was something simple like Cirrus Logics or S3, something basic that can do the VGA screen, because most of the virtualization at the time was designed to better utilize compute resources on the physical hardware. And when VDI became a thing running on the virtualized hardware, these VDI machines just took the graphics adapter that was offered, like S3 or Cirrus Logic, and started using it. Now, the capabilities of this virtualized graphics adapter were not perfect, and there was a lot of issues with that. And back in Windows 7 timeframe, Microsoft, instead of relying on the developers for the graphics adapters, instead of relying on them in rendering, Microsoft designed this software rasterization platform called Warp, and it is used to render the desktop on the VDI. Since then, on the all of the remote desktop services running on the virtual machines, and it works great. It works perfect in many use cases. But Windows 10 itself is evolving, and it's using it's designed for the computers with graphics adapters. Your Surface, your Dell laptops, your like any laptops have a graphics adapter, or maybe even two of them, and they are there for a reason, because Windows likes them. Windows use them to render better graphics. Microsoft Office is using GPU to render basic animations, little things that you like, that you enjoy when you work with Microsoft applications. And same with third-party apps. And as soon as these huge applications land on VDI, they start using CPU for rendering, which is not great. So GPUs would be better. And I highly recommend to use GPU just for rendering, just even for like basic use cases, like basic office work. Sometimes it could be expensive, but sometimes it could be, like in many cases, it could be on the same price point per user as a regular VM. Like on Azure, we added VV4 VMs based on the AMD processors. That works great, and they are much cheaper than you used to have VMs with GPUs. And I always recommend customers to try first to see the performance, and you will see the difference. You will see that CPU utilization, but by the Windows and regular Office applications, are far less if you have a GPU, and this will give you a better experience.
Makes sense. I love that answer. Great answer. So you mentioned around RDP, you mentioned some areas you guys would like to add. You know, you're like, there's things we can always do better, right? So maybe you could share some of those. What areas do you think does need improving, and if so, why?
We work on many things. We do work on better like improvements in the protocol itself from the graphics perspective, like how to take the graphics from the operating system and split in different pieces, like how to analyze these components. And like basic things, analyzing the video, the natural images that are coming from the applications, and separating the natural images from the UI elements. Today we can do this much easier with machine learning, with some of AI technologies, and we are working on this on onboarding some of the machine learning technologies to the RDP protocol. We are heavily working on improving the network components, and we bring in the new functionality, new ways of connecting the endpoints together to improve the network and reduce the latency between the client and the server VM. We do a lot on offloading different type of contents, like we work on the multimedia redirection, video redirection for your browser videos, for your videos that you play in different applications. There's a lot of work to do, and we are actively working on that.
Awesome. So as an IGEL employee, I hear a lot about this RDP Core stuff, and you'll hear our IGEL guys, and not just IGEL people, talk about RDP Core. What is RDP Core?
So RDP Core is the core platform for the RDP client. We call it RDP Core, and it's a same code base that we use to build the clients for different platforms. Your macOS, your iOS, Android client, your Linux client that IGEL runs as part of the IGEL OS. It is all of those clients are built from the same source. They are built from the same package, and it makes our life easier when we develop new things, when we develop new components within the protocol, when we add some new functionality on the client side. We add it to the single source repo, and then we just build clients for different platforms for it. And the partners like IGEL that are using Linux SDK that is based on the RDP Core, for guys like you, it means that every time we add new features, and this feature for the protocol is available on Windows, this feature is immediately available in a Linux client as well. And if we would add like new type of device redirection, it would land to the RDP Core, and Linux-based clients will get it immediately. If we add some improvements on the networking side, this will land in the RDP Core, and Linux clients and iOS clients, all of the clients that Microsoft provide, would have this feature immediately.
Very cool. So if somebody wants to, protocols is an interesting discipline, right? If somebody wants to learn more about RDP or just protocols in general, remoting protocols, do you have any recommendations where to start, or maybe if they think they know it, where to continue their knowledge?
We have a lot of documentation about the protocol itself and different components on the Microsoft documentation website, docs.microsoft.com, and we have like two places for documentation. As I said in the beginning, I work for the RDS/WVD group, so we have documentation for remote desktop services that is, I would say, more deep technical on the RDS components, and we have another documentation for WVD that either refer the documentation for RDS when it makes sense, or add some documentation that is WVD specific. So both of those documentation sites provide a lot of information. We have a tech community website techcommunity.microsoft.com, where we have a RDS blog where we publish some information, and I plan to publish some of the materials on the protocol itself, the deep dive for the protocol, on how protocols work internally, like from taking the graphics out of the desktop composition and back to like presenting on the client, like every step. This kind of information would be soon published, and many other things. I actually have a plan to publish remote desktop services protocol or remote desktop protocol release notes. It's I would say it's an artificial document that I internally call RDP history. I have a file called rdp history.doc where I accumulated all the features that were added to the protocol starting from first release of the protocol with Windows 94 and with latest releases that we have for WVD. So all of the features in the timeline, and that could be one of the like learning materials, how to like find, do you know everything about protocol or not.
That's cool. That's cool. I would love that. I'd love to see that. That would just be interesting to read through. You know, I love release notes, so you know, always learn something cool in there. Are there differences between RDP and WVD versus, let's say, RDS?
There are obviously differences because WVD is the managed service that Microsoft provides, and if you're using WVD, you don't care about manually deploying the gateways, brokers, web interfaces, etc. You just do this as a part of managed service. But from the protocol perspective, there are slight differences, but those differences are happening just because the release cycle for WVD is much shorter. So how we do develop RDP protocol and other RDS components? So we have the Microsoft have a big product called Windows, and this product is developed in the same source code base, and once every period we take a snapshot of this code and release it as a new operating system. And Windows Server is released every 3 to 4 years. Windows 10 nowadays released every 6 to 12 months, depending on the year. And RDP, as the part of the operating system for Windows Server, is released on the same schedule as Windows Server. For Windows 10, it's released on the same schedule as Windows 10, meaning that if we add a new feature to the protocol itself, it will land in Windows 10 every 6 months, in Windows Server every 3 years. Now, WVD is slightly different. For WVD, we take the protocol stack that was originally part of the operating system, and we decouple this protocol stack from the operating system, and we release it out of band. We release it on a different schedule, and this schedule is actually from 2 weeks to 4 weeks. We sometimes we can take longer to develop some feature, but we release the protocol itself from 2 weeks to maybe 6 weeks actually, and this means that if we add a new feature, it will land WVD first, but in 99% of the cases, this feature would be added to the RDS as well, and it will end up in Windows 10 and subsequent Windows Server release if it makes sense for the on-prem deployments.
Makes sense. Let's talk a bit about WVD, because that is sort of all the rage. We started going down that path a bit. So first of all, are you surprised by the excitement around WVD? I must confess I am. Now, don't get me wrong. I love it. I'm really excited about what Microsoft is doing. It's music. It blows my mind, right? For a guy that's been doing terminal services, Citrix, all that since day one, to think that Microsoft has this at that level, within the company is phenomenal. But I thought it would take a little bit more time, right? I think COVID might have changed some of that. But are you surprised? Is Microsoft surprised by the overwhelming excitement around WVD?
I would not say that we are actually surprised. We were really prepared for that during the private and public preview of WVD. It was surprising. We seen this surprise earlier than the rest of the world. Because if you remember, we were running public preview for a few months, and we had a public preview for much longer for WVD, and we seen the numbers, and we seen that customers are onboarding to the WVD much faster than we expected, and we had we have a different metrics how we measure the success of WVD and overall engagement of the customer, when they start from the front page of the documentation, and we follow them until they will have a user connected to the VM, and this user stays on this VM for months or for 2 months. We follow this, and we see that there's really a lot of customers are taking the full pass, and they take this full pass in a very short time, which happens because we spend a lot of work on reducing the knowledge, reducing the difficulty of onboarding the new customers, onboarding the new users. Remember, it's a service that everyone can try. You don't have to be a large enterprise to play with it. You can just have a Azure subscription and try it. And when we were designing the service, we were designing it for customers that might not have dedicated IT admin team that know VDI, like or I know, for people who are not working with VDI for a long time. And that was a big difference with some of the previous attempts that Microsoft had, including ARA, and it was a difference with some of the other public services that available from other vendors or service providers, and that the fact that it's easy to access and you don't have to contact someone to get onboarded makes a huge difference, and that's. I'm really excited. This reminds me how I got into the Citrix at some point. At some point of my career, a defining point of my career, when when my manager at the time said we need to find some remote desktop solution that is easier to manage. Can you check this Citrix stuff? And at that time, I was reading your book, Methodology in the Box. I was trying to get understanding what to do with this request from the manager. And what was really difficult for me at that time is to get access to the code to deploy it to the server. It was 2004 or 2005. And first of all, you have to download it from somewhere. But at that time, if you go to the citrix.com, you have to call the Citrix rep to ask for the code, to ask for the compact disk with the application itself. So because of that, many customers, many system admins were like, okay, that's work for my manager, not for me, so I will skip that. And the process of onboarding to the new product was really difficult just because you can't start. And every time when I want to try some product, and I go to the company website and I see that to try it, I need to fill a form and get the representative on the call. I just hang up. I don't want to do this. I don't want to talk to some random people that will start selling me something. I want to try it first. And WVD has a great beauty of this in this, that you can just sit at home, use your credit card or use the free trial and try it for a few days, for months, and then decide what to do.
Makes sense. So how does regular RDS knowledge apply to WVD? Does it?
It does apply in many cases. All of the RDP, like everything that you know on fine-tuning the RDP or configuring the remote desktop clients, using the group policies on both session host or client side. All of this applies to WVD because we use the same RDP protocol. There's some slight differences in the connection establishment sequence. We use different types of the gateways, but we still use the same RDP files that have the same parameters that was documented like 5 years ago, 10 years ago. We still have the same group policies. So everything that you know about making your RDS environment, on-prem environment works great, you can apply this knowledge to WVD. And this applied the image management, or the automation that you might have for your on-prem images. You can reuse it with WVD because at the end, all of the WVD VMs, they are spin up from the templates that are VHD files that are the same like on your on-prem Hyper-V.
Sounds good. I hear rumors that RDS was sometime, rumors, right? You hear them all the time, and most of them are based in far from fact. But that someday RDS or soon RDS will go away and just be replaced by WVD. What do you know about this, Denis?
I know the simple answer that why we how it's called about the cow and the milk. That why we should shoot the cow that produces all the milk for us. RDS is a huge business driver, and it brings a lot of money to Microsoft. That's one of the reasons why it's not going away. But from other side, we have a lot of customers that want this. We have a lot of customers that are not able to go to switch to the cloud or completely switch to the cloud. Many customers that would like to have a hybrid deployments, and they have it today. They will need support in 10 years for this, and that's where Windows Server is good for. Like every Windows Server release have support of life cycle of 10 years, and Windows Server 2019 that has RDS will be supported for until 2029 or something like that, or 2029. We will have RDS there, and I cannot promise this, as you know, but most probably, I would guess that next version of Windows Server that would be released at some time will have RDSH role as well, and it will get another 10 years of support. So RDS is not going away for many reasons. We analyze how the products work to make the products better, and in RDS is great in the fact that it runs in many scenarios that we are not able to simulate in our labs, and collecting the telemetry and analyzing the performance in those cases is really important, even from just product development strategy. So it's not going away. I don't see any reasons besides like the reasons that you see on the internet. And it's very similar to like all of these movies, like comedies or movies about I don't know, James Bond movies. There's some enemy that do the crazy stuff, and he do this crazy stuff just because he's a crazy guy. So Microsoft is not crazy. We are not doing this stuff just because we're crazy. We're doing stuff that is good for our customers. So RDSH is good for our customers. That's why we will continue to do it.
Makes sense. Yeah, I love it. You had me at, why kill the cow, right? So, Dennis, that's about it. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you're a busy man. I can learn from you all day long, right? I have for a long time. You're one of my favorites, smart as can be. That being said, I'll just ask sort of the question that you probably can't answer much, but maybe you can spill a few beans or turn us on to something. But what's coming in the future? What can we expect out of your group moving forward?
You can definitely expect innovations. That's for sure. We will have a round of announcements for the WVD and the RDP protocol itself during the Ignite that is coming, I think, this month in September 2020. If somebody is listening, like far later. We will have some announcements there. We will have announcements next year. We were bringing new features, and we're constantly working on the protocol, and we're working with partners on bringing them up to speed and making sure that they are using all the improvements in the RDS infrastructure, even if they are not using RDP protocol. So you should expect a lot of good things.
That's great. Denis, thank you so much. If there's anything we left out, is there anything else you would like to chat about or share, or we'll go ahead and call this an episode?
I always like to talk to you, Doug, and we definitely need to do this more often. Thank you everyone for listening, and thank you, Doug, for having me here.
Oh, it's a pleasure's all mine. I've known Denis for quite some time. I met him many. We were doing the meetup and we were trying to think about when we met, but it was right when you came to the U.S. I think one of the first times. I thought it was a CTP meeting, but I think you said it was something. But anyway, this is a great guy, smart as can be. So I understand about 1% of what the guy says. So anyway, Denis, thank you so much. Well, I'll let you go on with your day. For my day is over and your day is just getting started.
Thank you, Doug, and thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes another successful episode of DABCC Radio. As I always like to say, I'm the judge of that. Boy, thank you, Denis, so much for taking the time to do this. For me, it's late. For him, it's the first thing in the morning. So this guy wakes up to share all this greatness with us. So it's really, thank you so much, Denis. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If you did, please tell a friend. And if you didn't, let me know. If you'd like to come on the show, hey, let me know. Brown@IGEL.com or dbrown@dabcc.com. We would absolutely love to have you. I would love to have you. There's no we, it's I. What I say there? It's just me. I do I do it all here at DABCC Radio, and I enjoy it. Darn it. But what else do I say? It's summer's almost over. It's September now, quite crazy, and I'm looking forward to the fall. I'm not much for summertime anymore. The heat drives me batty, and I like it when it's dark and cold. You can wear a nice coat and a scarf, and The only thing I miss about the summer is sitting outside and having a beer in a cafe or a beer garden here in Berlin. But due to COVID, there wasn't a lot of that, which was a bummer in many ways, right? So, let's get this year over with, and maybe next year is better. I hope. Anyway, but it is joy, too. I tell people all the time, I'm going to digress for a second. I tell people all the time, I've actually enjoyed COVID in some ways. I got to spend a lot of time with my wife, which was really great. I totally adore the girl, and there's pluses in everything if you choose to look at them, right? Everything has a yin and a yang and a positive and a negative. And I think that the positives to COVID is the time we've been able to spend with our loved ones, our family, the fact that we've sort of learned what's really important to us also. I definitely have. Not that I didn't know to begin with. I'm old enough and gone through enough trials and tribulations that I know what's important to me, and that is the people around me. Folks like you. Many of you guys know me. I know you, and you know that you mean a lot to me. I miss seeing you guys, right? The road life's an interesting life, and you're doing a lot of travel for business. It's one of those, it sounds a lot of fun, but it gets sort of boring after a period of time. And yet another hotel, just like any other hotel anywhere else in the world, right? I did put it on Facebook, so the folks I went to school with thought, oh, wow, Doug's in Bavaria now, or wow, he's in Dublin, and wow, must be a great life. Yeah, I took a taxi to the hotel. I stayed at the hotel, had a cheesy meal, and I went to bed. Not that really sexy, is it? But don't tell them that. I don't think any of them listen to my podcast. If they do, it's awesome life. But it is. And the pieces that are awesome about it is meeting my friends, seeing my friends and meeting new ones. Every time I go out, I meet somebody, and I miss this, right? But at the same time, it's been nice to stay at home. I'm totally rambling, but I think you guys all know what I mean, right? The other thing is that you ramble a little bit more because you don't really have anything else. I mean, you don't talk to anybody. So I talked to my missus, the poor lady hasn't left me yet. When I first met her, we actually lived in a one-room apartment. She had just like a studio apartment. That's where she lived in. And it was just perfect for her. She was happy, had full kitchen, full bath, and one giant room. And when I sort of moved in, when I was coming over from the States to Berlin to stay with her, I lived there for a couple years with her. Now I still have my place in Florida. I go back every few months. But I always said, and then she told me, well, when we move out and get our own place, we can see if we can live together. We need to know this before we move to the next step. And I laughed at her and I said, if you can live in a one-room apartment for 2 years without killing each other, I think you've done pretty well. I think it's only uphill from there or downhill from there. It's as easy as life gets. And so COVID is sort of the same thing. If you haven't killed each other by that point or wanted to, then you're doing pretty well. And I've enjoyed it in some sick way very much. But I'm looking forward to being over. So that's my ramble. It's my podcast. I get to say what I want. It's always fun to finish these things off with a little bit of Dougisms, I guess. So, yeah, sorry. Probably canceled, closed, turned off the podcast by now. But on that note, I'll just say thank you to each and every one of you for listening to DABCC Radio. We have a bunch of podcasts lined up for September and October and November, and we're going to be doing many more of these. I'm really enjoying them again. So I took some time off, as you know, from DABCC Radio, even DABCC for sure. But all that's going to come back because after a while you get that passion back. And I love what I do. I always have, and I hope you do too. So on that note, thank you very much for listening to DABCC Radio.
CC?
DABC.
Say it again, DABCC.
DABC.
Can you say it again, DABCC?
DABC.
How about DABCC?
DABC.
DABCC.
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 Wait, there's more. I'm back. Yeah. I want to tell you one more story. So, as you all know, I like the end of the podcast. I get to sort of lecture you guys for a little bit, right? Tell my stories, give my lecture, stay safe, don't do this, blah, 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 blah. I have kids. Imagine how I lecture them. It's so much fun. My ex-wife says, it's Daddy's lecture time. So I came up with a lecture time song, and I want to share it with you. It goes something like this. Feel free to laugh. And I hope you stuck around for this because it's funny. Sit down. Start over. Sit right down, kids. It's Daddy's lecture time. Because Daddy's going to lecture you, lecture you, lecture you. Daddy's going to lecture you right now. You better pay attention because there will be a quiz. Daddy's going to lecture you right now. Daddy's going to lecture you. Daddy's going to lecture you. Daddy's going to lecture you right now. You better pay attention because there will be a quiz. Yeah. Daddy's gonna lecture you right now. Sit down, kids. It's Daddy's lecture time.